11. We'll be diving with CJ down in Key Largo as we go to work on Ken's Reef Farm. What we'll see is how we grow staghorn coral and actually get it out onto the various reefs around Key Largo. Let's join CJ. CJ's making his way down to Ken's Reef Farm, where he's going to be working with some of Ken's staff as well as the staff from EcoKeys. Stephanie Roach and Sarah will be joining CJ as they work on cleaning and getting these young pieces of staghorn coral ready to go out onto the reef. They have to clean these coral because essentially fireworms and other destructive organisms will grow on them and keep them from growing to a state where we can actually use them. What we're going to do today is dive along with CJ and see what he does and how the rest do in helping us to grow America's reefs, especially in the waters around Florida. Just about anyone who is a certified diver can come out and help. Some of the tools are specialized. You'll see they're just like large toothbrushes. In addition, there might be a chisel or a wire brush that's used to help scrape these things off. But let's get some instructions and figure out what we're doing. Now we know CJ really doesn't pay that much attention in class, so how do you think he's going to do out here? Well, you'll watch as Sarah just simply tells CJ, hey, oh, there he is. CJ, there you are. What's she telling you? I know. She's telling you to watch her. What Sarah's doing is actually scraping the growth. Oh, CJ, take your tools. Forgot about that. Yeah, let's see. How can you get it done? Is it easier to move the brush, or is it easier to move the piece of coral? You'll notice that the coral is attached to a piece of material that is also attached to a piece of PVC piping. That PVC piping is then extended up from the ground. This has been a learning and growing process. What works best, essentially, is what we're looking at. But in either case, these young coral have to be protected. And the best way to protect them is to clean all of the organisms that grow off so that they can be taken out and placed onto the coral reef. Hey CJ, what's up? You notice that Sarah is showing him nice, easy strokes. You don't want to make a mistake and scrape across the coral, but what you want to do is actually get the growth. Now what will happen, is we can get these bubbles past us, is CJ will be working on each one of these individual growth of coral, also out in the field, or others that have come out from Earth Day, on Earth Day, and essentially they're going to help us do the same. Now you'll notice that the area that these things are in are kind of tight, so you really have to be careful. Cleaning means a thorough cleaning, slow and meticulously getting all the growth off. Now you can be a little too meticulous, scraping and cleaning too much, kind of like brushing your teeth too much. Inside, outside, down on the bottom. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. All right, here we go. Now, all of this work goes to getting each one of these small pieces of coral ready so that they can go out onto the reef here in Key Largo. Now, the reef at Molasses Reef is just here he is. I forgot all about Tim. Tim's here. Hey, Tim. Tim is our still photographer. You'll see Tim's work on the website at CRF, which, by the way, is the Coral Reef Foundation. And all of the stills that you'll see there and most of the stills that you'll see on our site, Junior Scientist in the Sea, will come from Tim. Now back to work. Okay, CJ's doing a little bit better. Got a good rhythm going on there as he gets all of the growth and verdigris off of the head of this piece of coral. Now we'll notice that Sarah there is working herself, basically getting the stands done and making sure that the growth takes its time as it's going to have to work its way up. Notice how far these pieces of coral are from the bottom. This is a situation where we've kind of learned through trial and error. The closer they were to the actual bottom, you'll notice the piece of coral there on the right, the easier it was for the organisms to grow up and actually invade. So by making these stands tall and thin, it took a lot longer for them to grow up. That way we don't have to actually get down there and clean these stands on a daily basis, which essentially would help burn us out. But here we are. So we're working on these. CJ, what are you doing? Ah, okay. Now he's got it. You see, he's kind of working there, making sure that he's adjusting his buoyancy, because if you're bouncing around on the bottom, it's hard to work. Okay, so he'll get that done, and making himself heavy so he sits down in one place and gets to the cleaning. Yeah. Probably could have disconnected that other brush, but you know, when you're down there and you're excited about what you're doing, it's hard to think about everything. But there are other things that you need to think about. This area, as you'll notice, is teeming with small fish. Small fish bring bigger fish. So it's actually a good idea to keep an eye out. Now, we do know that some of the bigger fish out there don't like to bother with people, especially since most of the people are as large as they are. But it's still kind of unnerving and unsettling, so it's kind of a good idea to take a look around. We're getting closer now to getting all of the growth off of these things. This one particular stand is right next to one of the older ones. In a second, we're going to see just how big these things can grow. Now you'll see there's one little nodule on each one of these stands. If you look immediately to the left there, you're going to see a big piece of staghorn coral, and that's kind of what we're trying to get to. But that takes time and a little bit of transplanting. And it's fun. Imagine doing this for a living, diving, working to increase the amount of coral that is on the coral reefs all around the state of Florida and hopefully all around the U.S. It's just really, really good stuff. And it's good science. You notice that there's a hog snapper in there, and he's just getting around there and getting all the pieces, everything that CJ and Sarah scrape off. This is like going to McDonald's for him. It's all the work that he doesn't have to do. Somebody's doing it for him. They'll just scrape all this stuff off, and then he'll get a chance to eat it. Basically, it's a free lunch. Now the guys are going to move over to the larger piece of coral. This is a piece that's getting ready to be put out on the reef. You'll notice that the tools that they use are changing. They'll work with a chisel and even a large wire brush. Working up close to the piece of coral, they'll be careful and use the smaller brushes, but they need to get all of the little microorganisms and things away that could possibly damage this piece of staghorn coral. Now we have to remember this piece came from a small piece just like these, and you see how even the material from the coral grows down over the epoxy. That's how this project works. It simply will grow and grow and grow as long as we allow it to. If you look closely at this larger piece of staghorn coral right in the middle, other than our friend the hog snapper who keeps getting in the way, you will see a piece that is actually broken off. That piece can be recovered. You see the white tips? That's all new growth. It's just like a plant that you'd see anywhere in your neighborhood or maybe even in your parents' garden. So we can actually clip that little piece off and stick it onto a piece of the epoxy and grow it. So just because it's broken, it doesn't mean it's a total loss. Now let's join CJ and Sarah and see what they're up to. You'll notice that they're working very close with the soft wire brushes, but right now you see Sarah's having a hard time getting some of that difficult growth off. So she's going to have to switch to stronger tool. So she's going to have to get that big wire brush there and get that off. Let's see if in addition to that hog snapper, he's just going to sit there and eat as long as we're providing food for him. Okay, so now she's realized in order to get this growth off, because it's so close to the bottom, the organisms can come right out of the bottom and get on our mounting. And in this case, it is just a piece of cinder block. But it's got to be clean in order to protect this piece of coral. What CRF has discovered is that while this process works very well, and we can see by the size of this piece of staghorn coral, which has probably been there 18 months to 2 years, there are better ways and faster ways that require a little less cleaning. This is a lot of work getting down there. Now I'm sure you guys realize that it's fun, but it's still a lot of work. And getting down in this environment is also time limited. They can only work down even at the shallow depth, down on the bottom, for as long as they have air in those scuba cylinders. So what do we have? We have a new process. Ken and his team have learned that by hanging the staghorn coral from lines, it actually grows not only better, but faster, 5 times faster. So essentially, we can get more done, more coral grown by stringing up 2 buoys and then lines going across. As we see here, from small pieces to large pieces, the coral grows very fast, and we don't have to do all of the cleaning. Now, some cleaning still has to be done, but as you can see, the growth here is outstanding. And while the others are toiling down on the bottom trying to protect the other coral by cleaning it, this growth is amazing. Not only is it faster, but it's asymmetrical. Now we can take one of these pieces and you see it growing in 2 different directions. We could actually cut this piece in half and use it twice. 5 times faster it grows. Now that does mean that there are other problems. Well, what problems? The coral grows more faster and faster. It weighs the line down because they're on buoys. Now Ken came up with the idea of, while monitoring this, to just take, one of the nemesis of our ocean, plastic bottles, filling them full of air that he's already exhaled. You got to cap it first, then simply attach it to the lines. Now he's been using cork floats, but the coral grows so fast, the cork floats don't even hold it. So it needs a little bit more monitoring, but in the end, you get a piece of coral that's very quickly ready to go out. By tying this bottle with air in, he could actually float it up, which will relieve some of the weight. Of course, the best way to relieve this weight is to take the coral off and put it out on the reef. So let's do that. Let's get ready to get out there and work on Molasses Reef. See you there.